Harbor's the worst in every control already in the game. Harbor is going to be the worst agent in the game, mark my words.
His slow is so short that it's effectively non-existent. The agent feels completely half-baked.
I think this is really scary. I think this video is also perfect because I think they are going to be one of the heavyweights when it comes to the teams that we're looking at.
I didn't feel challenged not only by Shopify, but literally any other team in this tournament.
Is it going to be super entertaining and be like a viewership engine for the region? Yeah, absolutely.
And speaking of big monies, man, there's big money moves continuing into Sentinels this week as it's finally confirmed. So Sasi and Pankata finally joined Sentinels, but with a Sentinels rebuild around TenZ. So all the rumors of TenZ leaving, maybe going to 100 Thieves, maybe going to Optic or whatever is left of Optic, it's like, no. Sentinel says we're going to build around the system with TenZ. They're not going to fuck around here, and they're just going to use TenZ as the star opper for this team. First off, before we talk about Pankata and Sasi, I want to know your thoughts here, Anderzz, about TenZ re-signing as Sentinels. Is this still a great playbook for the team?
Time will tell. It's one of those things where, like, at least in my opinion, TenZ hasn't been put in a system to succeed in so long that it's very hard to get a read on where his ceiling's going to be if he is put back into that system. Like, when was the last time we truly saw TenZ in an environment where he was just set up to absolutely clown on everyone, like a Yay-esque setup?
TenZ and friends.
Mean, it's been like a year plus. So, like, does he still have that level of, like, just pure monstrosity to him where now that he's falling back into a system that's going to support him, is he just going to pop off? That's presumably what Sentinels is going for.
So with Sasi and Pankata joining Sentinels too, and Sasi even on top of that joining the roster, you know, had some heartfelt words to say about the previous roster that was that he was with, with Loud, saying, you know, we had some great times. You know, I love my teammates. We accomplished some great shit, especially when I started in League of Legends in 2013. Look at me now. Look at what we built. And then suddenly he just joined Sentinels. But then on the other end, Pankata showing that, you know, people were questioning about his English a bit, but it works here. He says, hello, TenZ, follow me back or I'm quitting the team right now. So there's going to be some things that they're trying to reach first. Pankata, another title with Sentinels. Sasi, another title with Sentinels, but Pankata is just a TenZ follow. But, well, now these two players joining Sentinels, Tanner, be the missing piece to allow TenZ to actually pop off like he is supposed to, where he's going to be able to get enabled like we're supposed to see TenZ play.
Yeah, so I think that these players obviously slide in very well. I think anybody would say that Sasi and Pankata, anybody on Loud going anywhere is kind of an upgrade, especially when you look at the Sentinels roster. I would think like Sasi kind of over Shazam and Pankata over Zombs in their specific roles.
Yeah.
What I want to know is, my man's, it was only Chamber, and this guy has 8 rounds on this agent. I don't know what the hell that's all about, especially when TenZ on Chamber is not going to be the same TenZ that we fell in love with as arguably one of the better players in the world on this Sentinels rise. It was kind of like equivalent to how Misfits played with Fluorescent, where they're like, floor, go kill, but also use your brain. I feel like TenZ kind of created that play style, and it's completely different. You can still play aggressive on the Chamber, sure, and push forward, but it's not the same as smoking yourself out and dashing away and having like fun jet play. So I think this kind of tells us, I think everybody's like, please, TenZ, just learn how to play Chamber, and maybe they're leaning that way. I don't think it's gonna be the same TenZ though.
We were also saying TenZ, please play some Raze too at some point. But with now the newest rumors with Cypher being buffed, this actually might look like a roster that's going to be complete. Like if a Cypher buff, and technically Def is that 5th player joining Sentinels, Zekin could play some Raze, Jet could be played by TenZ again. Anderzz, this might be looking like a great powerhouse for NA in 2023.
So here's my one concern for this team is what happens if Sentinel characters, not Sentinels the team, what happens if Sentinel characters get buffed? Like, who's playing the Flash on this team now?
Yeah,
because okay, so we've got Def playing Flash Initiator in that scenario, Pankata on Smokes, Sasi on Info. Are we just running no Senti now? We're going double duelist? Because that sounds a little bit sus. Like, are we just assuming that the meta is going to shift back that direction? Because that's sort of what would have to happen for that to not be soft inting. So like
Yeah.
that's my one concern for the structure of this team is like, who the hell is playing flashes for you in a metagame where you're forced to run a traditional Sentinel?
And it's great to have you on, Anderzz, for us to talk about this next segment, actually, because, you know, Harbor officially out today. There was actually some moments where last week we were able to do some playtests around Harbor even last week. I didn't get to play him personally, but I got to play against a Harbor. I thought it was pretty chill, but overall, I mean, it looks like the kit is strong, not strong. Maybe some conversations around what's been going on around the community saying you can't really play this agent as a single controller, but there's a lot of shit that you could do, at least with this Harbor, especially with this tidal wave. But yeah, so what are your thoughts right now, guys, on the Harbor? I'll start things off with Tanner at least, because I know Anderzz is gonna have a lot.
As I say, I'm gonna go off. So Tanner, take the stage first.
Yeah, so Harbor is fucking cool, man. I think this agent is really cool. I don't know if it was how noticed it was, but when this ultimate is happening and somebody's getting stunned, it actually has like a cool little trail up in the sky. So you can see it right there.
Mhm.
So you get extra information that somebody is in that general area. And if not about to get stunned, then you know kind of where they're at. So I thought that was really cool how you get some good info out of that ultimate, as well as, you know, doing the controller thing. Fuck, man, I don't know. It just doesn't seem like enough. The wall, I did this thing one time. I was playing him on Breeze, and I was like, guys, check this out. I lined up as high as I could for his E, his high tide, thinking it would work like Vipers, and it was the shortest shit I've ever seen. His high tide is not as long as the toxic screen, so I'm really interested to see the actual brains behind the game get their hands on this agent, especially in kind of like a competitive atmosphere.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think my first thoughts are he's cool, but he's nothing special. I don't think we're going to see him in every single game.
Yeah, well, shout out to Sliggy at least, as we get to see him like work the tech around
Yeah.
what we could do, what Harbor could actually bring into a map, and trying to already study a meta around it, already putting that wall in the back, like trying to see how you could actually split a site, which looks like it's the main characteristic around this agent. And also, there's been an event happening this weekend where Harbor has been played, right? This is I want to know your thoughts, Anderzz, around this agent.
Yeah, so I think that this agent is a little stylistically confused. Like a lot of his elements are very controlling in nature. Like the fact that he has a slow, the fact that he has like effectively defuse secure in his cove. But the problem is that his entire kit has to be operated in a very aggro way. So he's trying to do two diametrically opposed things simultaneously, and the end result is just a very confused kit. Like if I were to sort of give Harbor his stylistic niche, like Viper's the map slicer, Harbor's almost trying to be like the retake slicer.
Correct.
Like you can't play him as a side anchor. That's not going to fucking work. You're inting if you do that. And so you're playing him almost in a way where you're probably playing him on your strong sides consistently. You're using him in some sort of like early round counter aggro where you toss your high tide. The fact that it lasts as long as it does and then it comes up on a 25 second rolling cooldown after that 15-second duration means that you can counter aggro, use it, and then where he shines the most in retakes, it's going to be back up by the time that becomes relevant. And so I think that's sort of where he's going to fall, but sort of following that line of reasoning, that isn't a primary controller, not even close. And so what situation do you get where you're running double controller, but that secondary controller can't function as a side anchor? Because now we're now talking about a situation where, okay, I have to run a primary controller. I'm running Harbor secondary controller. I realistically have to run a true side anchor, so I'm probably running a Sentinel on the other half of the map. That means that I'm either running Info Initiator, Flash Initiator, or I'm running Duelist and one of those two, meaning that I'm dropping one of my primary initiator types. We're either running Flashless or Infoless, or we're running a Duelist. Those are the avenues that you have to play Harbor in, and it's like, I don't think the meta's in a place where that's really optimal right now. Far from it, in fact.
And that's why some opinions that follows what you're saying as well here, Anderzz, is potentially Harbor shouldn't be like a single controller type of in your comp, right? So Harbor's the worst in every controller already in the game. Harbor is going to be the worst agent in the game, mark my words. So that's from ec1s and BCJ. Yay, on the other hand, though, as you mentioned as well, it seems to be a good retake agent, right?
Mhm.
With the abilities that Harbor could bring out. So he could split the map on a retake, right? But the thing is,
Yes.
it also slows your teammates going through the wall.
Yeah.
So if you want to try to do a high tide with an initiator flashing through to get the best value out of the high tide for a retake, then it might not be the best way to be able to retake a site. Secondly,
Anderzz hated that.
yeah, and
He-
his cove gets broken by one satchel. So
Yeah.
you could cancel
He-
that a lot.
Here's the problems with this agent is like I talked all my comments thus far have been like very high level like macro analysis sort of shit about how he fits into teams stylistically, how he fits into compositions. If you want to get down to the brass tacks of his actual ability micro, Cove dies in less than 2 seconds if you're shooting it with a Vandal. His
Mhm.
slow is so short that it's effectively non-existent. The agent feels completely half-baked, and genuinely, I was talking with some of my buddies about this. It feels like there was a fire drill type moment based off of public perception on Riot's end, and they literally yanked a mechanic from this agent. It feels like there's literally something that is full up gone from his kit for him to be this underpowered. Like,
Mhm.
in my opinion, Cascade should have the same level of bullet impenetrability that Cove has. So
Mhm.
that you can actually push with it. You lean into the aggro nature of the agent. His stylistic identity gets more aligned. Like, it feels like, and I mean, if you look at one of the trailers, his wall is very clearly blocking bullets.
Mhm.
And yet
Mhm.
neither of his walls in game block bullets. Is this a situation where Riot straight up had that mechanic part of his kit, and then they saw public perception being like, the fuck is this? And then they
Yeah.
just
Right.
pulled it before release. Like, it feels like that because he is so weak. Otherwise, it just doesn't make sense.
Better yet, I bet you this is all
Cool,
like
though.
a bait opinion from Anderzz anyways. He's already in the lab and there's going to be some shit cooked up.
True.
Oh, I've
About
got some
Harbor
crazy
that's gonna
shit
be-
with him.
That's what I'm saying, right? But at least something that's not a bait and something that's confirmed is finally another North American NA VCT partnership program that has now been confirmed, and that's with Cloud9. Full roster finally being announced as we expected after it was reported repeatedly by members of our community around the leaks and the journalists. We actually have the core of Vanity, Zeppa, and Leaf alongside as Ye and Zelsis. I want to know your thoughts, Danner. How does this roster look? Will it actually be that Cloud9 that we knew from 2021?
Yeah, we kind of talked about Cloud9, I think it was last week, and I like this roster a lot. I think you kept a really solid core. The core of Cloud9 that just worked for the longest time and looked like the best team in North America. And then things get a little weird because Jetta leaves, Curry comes on, not a whole lot of time. But the new additions, I think, no offense to Curry, Zelsis and Ye are just better players. Obviously, they play different roles, but I think Zelsis is the best at his kind of one of the best at his like flex role. And then Ye is obviously the best in the world, right? So
Mhm.
I really like that they got two guys that I think can essentially help themselves out in Zelsis and Ye. They've already been doing it for a really long time and really showing off on rosters that might not be the best rosters, right? Zelsis on Sentinels before with Shroud on it, and it's kind of like, well, what? And then Leaf, Vanity, and Zeppa just get to just keep doing what they were doing, which was working for a really long time. So yeah, I think this is really scary. I think this video is also perfect because I think they are going to be one of the heavyweights when it comes to the teams that we're looking at for the Americas League.
So now that you actually have El Diablo joining the roster, Zelsis being a great flex player for this team, is this the winning solution now for these 5 players to actually beat the hype around Sentinels and 100 Thieves here, Anderzz?
This feels like a very short-sighted roster design because what the hell happens if we have to play normal Sentinels again?
Mm-hmm.
Like this roster for the current metagame with Chamber is like easily a top 3 team in the world.
Yeah.
Easily. That assumes like all of these rumored super teams in EMEA, like accounting for all of the crazily stacked like giga rosters that we're gonna get globally. This still looks like a top 3 team in the world in the current meta.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens if Chamber gets nerfed in the ground? Okay, we put Ye back on to Jet. That's kind of a no-brainer. But where does Leaf go? Are we
Yeah.
running double duelists constantly? Because that seems like the only direction that this team can go. If you harken back to Champions 2021, when we saw Leaf on non-duelist roles, wasn't anything to particularly excite me. I'm
Mhm.
like, that's not a jab at him as a player. That's putting a very specialized, high caliber player in an off-spec role and him underperforming on it. This entire team architecture is set up to have that problem. I don't understand it.
Well, I could see Lee still being able to play a Raze whenever they need it, and then Zelsis, we've seen what he's done with version 1 under Vanity's IGLing as a Killjoy during the Iceland 2021. But
Yeah.
I think two people that aren't mentioned in this roster is the coaching staff, right? MCE and Cupert. And we already know about MCE. We know what Cupert has brought with the guard and how MCE sees high regard around Cupert. But Cupert also joins this roster as a sixth player, having IGL experience, having coaching experience, and also being able to fill in case something happens in the main roster. I think this is actually an underrated and good pickup going into Cloud9 here, Tanner.
Yeah, and I think it shows that Cloud9's like idea of a sixth man is so much more than just somebody who's just going to be a substitute, right? Or teams who might be looking at like, hey, we actually need a Raze player. Who is our sixth man going to be? So I really like this pickup, thinking really holistically for the sixth man, and then kind of also having that contingency of if we do need a sub, Cupert can do it.
Yeah. Well, with that, good luck to Cloud9. I'm super excited about this roster as well. NA's shaping up to be having some strong powerhouses with what's confirmed with Sentinels and Cloud9 so far.
If you've been enjoying Valoranting, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you get every episode hot off the presses.
Speaking about that with Cloud9, let's switch over to the ladies division, right? Into Game Changer scene. So Cloud9 White, no surprise, they win again. Next segment. No, just kidding. Let's get into that though, right? It's Game Changers once again, series number 3. I mean, Cloud9 has been dominating throughout this whole bracket. We got to watch and cast a little bit as well. And let's see, actually, after C9 won, they had a little bit of a conversation to reflect back into the event. So let's see what they have to say.
I think this tournament we've actually like lost the least amount of rounds like total in any like GC we've ever played. I think the most rounds we lost was what, like 7. I didn't feel challenged not only by Shopify but literally any other team in this tournament.
It was nice to see everyone else get challenged though. I feel like we really were just watching the event happen. We were like a non-factor, I feel like, as in just watch everyone else like get 13-11 and like drop maps, but we didn't drop any maps either. So very unchallenged.
Even Mel says that maybe Berlin's not going to be a challenge once they get to that stage at the Champions. What's your thoughts on that here, Anderzz?
I mean, I think that's taking it a step too far. I mean, there's no denying it. Like, this is the most dominant they've been in a long time. I think the max rounds that they dropped was like 7, 9, something like that. Like, they didn't just win every map they played. They kind of dunked every map that they played. So, like, them going to Berlin confident is completely valid.
Mm-hmm.
That said, like, I don't think you should be using your ability to stomp North America as your measure for confidence going into the international. Like, it seems like they're getting dangerously close to the line between confidence and arrogance, and I really want to see them perform well when they get to Berlin. Like, that's the narrative everyone wants in Game Changers. Like, C9 White, this unbeatable juggernaut that's dominated NA for forever. We want them to go to this first international and take it the fuck home. And I just want to make sure that they're not getting ahead of themselves and being like, oh, we dunk NA, so we'll dunk international. It's like G2 goes in, X10, like there are teams in the international GC circuit that you cannot sleep on to any extent whatsoever, or they will just run you over.
Yeah, hey, and you guys know I'm high on Team Liquid Brazil. I love Team Liquid Brazil. I do think what I'm hoping is happening, because the teams that we see at the top of the regions have some type of competitive experience, before coming into Game Changers, right? So Cloud9, they all kind of doing like the Counter-Strike thing. G2 goes and all do the Counter-Strike thing. So what I hope is happening, that Cloud9 White is just selling the show, because even if you just compared everything, right, you have to assume that G2 in EMEA is probably just as strong as, you know, our Cloud9 here and the Team Liquid there, right? Every region probably has that one incredibly strong team, and I think Cloud9 White knows that. But this Team Liquid Brazil team, you were even saying it, I think, for was it APAC, Anderzz, that
there's X10 and Alter Ego Celeste are both like pretty fucking crazy teams.
And they also come into this with like minor LAN experience, where a Jazzykins, who is incredibly young and doesn't have experience like that, even if it's Team Liquid Brazil, they're playing right now just in a studio. Like, I feel like that right there is something that I guess you have to have that confidence to try and shake those nerves before it happens, because I think Cloud9 White might actually look rocky on I guess at the international land. It's just so big, and they don't really have like a whole lot of experience behind it. I'm not getting my hopes up for Cloud9 White. I do think that they will be incredibly strong, if not the strongest. But I definitely think G2 goes in, Guild, the X10s. They're gonna put up a fight, man.
Yeah.
I've lived that meme firsthand, by the way. That's great.
Let's go into the next segment while we
Motherfucker.
stay in EMEA, though. Tanner, what do you think? Do you think it's Fnatic now that they picked up Leo and apparently potentially maybe even picking up Chronicle? Or who do you have your sights on for the team to look out for EMEA for 2023?
Yeah, so I think first I just want to say I'm glad that a lot of people are finding homes. We talked to Safe on the show a little bit ago. Obviously, Guild didn't make it in, and now we see Leo finding a home. Very cool to see that. I think Na'Vi, if you're looking at it, Na'Vi seem like, I feel like it'd be kind of silly, although I believe they're losing artists, right? That picking up FPX, the majority of FPX, that makes them look like a really strong team. I don't know what was going on with Fnatic. I always felt like Fnatic, they just couldn't find their mark. Like always one of the strongest teams, but when it came to the big show, over and over again, it just seemed like, I don't know if it was a pressure thing or if they just had such high expectations for themselves. It seems like they just couldn't meet it. So I do think that Leo is a good addition to this team. And if you're keeping it kind of the same, you're adding Chronicle to it, I do think Fnatic looks strong, but just based off of what happens when you make roster moves, I think grabbing 4 that have already played together like Na'Vi are doing, that speaks to me the most in way of like strength.
I know some people are already mad seeing that Fnatic lost to a team that they call like the tier 4 in the region or whatnot, but Mini did come out and say, look, we're trying different things. We're trying to get our new players acclimated into the system. We're trying to have Bolster Call on the fly and see how that's going to pan out just to get ready for 2023. But overall here, just looking at the playstyle and how those matches came about, what's your thoughts, Anderzz, on Fnatic? Because I'm pretty sure you still have a little bit of bias going into that team.
Yeah. So this is what I'm going to use as an analog for people. Remember right after I joined Fnatic and we played Red Bull Homeground and literally like intentionally ran it down as we were testing out a bunch of things, and then we went top 8 at Champions when nobody expected us to make it out of groups? Yeah, I think that is a very similar situation here where they're experimenting with a couple of things. I know that they're trying to transition Durka back onto primary duelist, get Alpha onto chamber. Bind is actually the only map at the event where that wasn't the case, and I think Mini in a separate tweet literally said that was what was happening. And so I don't know why people would look at an event where they're explicitly saying that they are in a transitional period and be like, oh, this is clearly an indicator of like how good they're going to be. Like that's asinine. Come on now.
But what's your thoughts on Alpha Yer here playing Chamber, Tanner?
Yeah, I do think it kind of removes the ceiling a little bit, but I like that they're exploring this option instead of kind of having like saying, hey, we need a dedicated chamber player, like we're kind of seeing Ye as a dedicated chamber player. Having Alpha Yer play the chamber and kind of working that in when those nerfs do eventually come, like Anderzz is talking about, Alpha Yer can play something else, right? He is very comfortable elsewhere in really, I feel like a handful of roles, but especially as that duelist role. Durka can obviously fall back on something as well. So I think it's nice that they're just trying it with what they have versus trying to find that elsewhere. Also for this tournament, like, dude, with Leo on the team at the very least, right? Like you're trying to build camaraderie, and the best way to do that is by playing the video game together. And sometimes playing ranked sucks. So why not just have some fun while you're playing, in a Superdome tournament, right? So I like this look that they're kind of just having fun with it ultimately. But yes, Alpha Yer onto the chamber I think is cool because when the inevitable comes, then they still have options.
Yeah, Anderzz?
Quick aside, I think that it's super cool that they're like playing that Superdome event for team synergy, but not only that, Leo already has LAN experience with most of his teammates. Just let that, like that alone is kind of huge value. As far as Alpha on Chamber goes, this is something that literally before Alpha got signed, I was like, oh, they're going to leave Durka on primary duelist and Alpha's going to go to Chamber. I was actually stunned when the opposite ended up being true, because if you look back at Alpha's stats when he's playing in Turkey, dude was a 400 ACS Jet player. Like his opping has always been ludicrous. So I knew that they brought him in as a primary Sentinel replacement for Magnum. So I was like, why the hell is this guy not on Chamber? all of his numbers say he's going to be disgusting out in it. So like, just let Durka do Durka things and maintain that like aggressive tempo setting that he's known for, and bring in this Sentinel player that has shown an ability to op at a world-class level. Like, I think that once they settle with these roles, they're going to be fucking insane. It's going to be ridiculous. No bias. Smile.
That said, new skin coming out with the new patch. It is the Iron Skin version 2, which now has Vandal Iron. Our thoughts, Tanner? You already bought the buddy, but apparently you don't really like the rest of the skins.
No, you know what? I think the variants are a little lacking for me. Although I wanted variants on the first Ion, after looking at them here, they just look like the Infinity set from the Battle Pass.
Mm-hmm.
The knife is very cool, but I am, oh man, I'm a slut for a good gun buddy. I'll be honest. And I liked the drip with my weapons and my gun buddy. So the Ion Owl drone that you get from this bundle, super sick. I put 10 on my account today just so I could buy the gun buddy. But the skins itself, doesn't really do it for me.
There were a few people I've been looking around the TLs that are like, oh, I wish we actually had like some sort of like a pink pastel colorway around this Iron bundle. That would have been sick. And I think it prompted a conversation that we had earlier on, even getting ready for the show here, Tanner, where we're hoping to see some sort of more feminine skin line, anything in terms of those cosmetics. And I think that'd be kind of cool to see, Anderzz.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, like, skin set's cool and all. The one thing that will always bug me is that the original Ion skins hurt frame rates. And me being the min-maxer that I am, I'm just like, did they fix that or not? Because if they didn't, then I'm not interested. Unlucky.
What are we still buying it? Are we still buying it? I'm actually
I might buy it on my Smurf just to have a good Vandal skin.
Really? Damn, you're that fucking rich, eh? All right.
I mean,
buying shit on your
like
Smurf.
that.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, the owl drone actually looks fucking cool. I might be down for that. Actually, I'm literally not following the show anymore. I'm just looking at my store. I opened up Valorant,
the little owl
and
drone's cool, man.
It actually looks pretty fucking cool. I'm not gonna lie. I might cop that. But there's also, when we're looking at the not only the battle pass but the Iron skin line, we've noticed that there was a lot of split going into that going into the skin line. And I like this. Good shout out to Valorant on those ones, because Split, hot take, still one of my favorite maps. Split and Bind top there as the best maps here in Valorant that we have currently. But I'd love to see Split come back. What's wrong, Anderzz? You don't like some Bind?
Said Bind?
Some Split?
Get Bind the fuck out of here.
You said Bind?
Bring Split
bro?
back for Bind. That's the move. That's the move.
For Breeze. For Breeze.
I mean, I wouldn't be opposed with that either.
Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to that either.
See? For Pearl. Yeah, you know?
Oh,
Bind
no,
is still
Pearl
fucking
is
good.
Ooh, Pearl is extra tasty.
Do you guys think this is coming back though? So now
I think Riot's baiting the fuck out of us.
Okay. It's not like CS:GO where like you take a map away from active duty, you rework it, bring it back in ASAP.
I think that this is way too fast of a turnaround. I think that the precedent that they would set by bringing it back this quickly is a little bit unreal. Like, it would just be a really, really weird precedent to set where it's like, oh, we're going to rotate maps, but then we're going to bring it back like a month and a half later so that you, like, are teams supposed to continue scrimming this map if it's going to be reintroduced on such a fast wheeler? Like, that seems excessive. What I think they're doing is that they're just intentionally inserting Split wherever they possibly can to keep it front of mind for the fan base, so that there is sort of like, there is what we're exactly doing right now. There's an extant longing to have the map back, so that when it eventually does come back, it's like a big fanfare, despite the fact it's literally just them re-releasing content that they've had all along.
What if we're hyping it up so much and then we fucking, the map hasn't changed at all, and then we're just all disappointed, Tanner?
Well, so I like Split the way that it is. I believe anybody. I give everybody a benefit of the doubt. If you tell me something, why would you lie to me, right? So I've been hearing people say that they're making changes to Split. That is super cool. But also, what has Riot done since the beginning of Valorant? They've listened to the fans. And I think that there is a good chance that Split does come back, because we're like, dude, the best games that we've ever seen were played on this map competitively. So please bring it back. And Riot, this is me asking you, please bring it back.
Global Esports originally started off with a 10-player roster that was announced potentially all to be an Indian roster in the VCTs in East Asia. But then most recently, they decided to use their import, being Aaron from former Exit, to fly over to Korea and play for the team. But now look at this. Most recently, at 5 a.m., while I was still playing the Battle Pass and doing spike rushes, I tweeted this out to our producer and say, look at this shit. They actually brought in Batsy, Ronsky, and Texture, while also keeping SK Rossi and Lightning Facts and bringing in Monyet too. So they've really gone global at this point with this roster here.
I mean, this roster is fucking wild. Like, there's no two ways about it. Like, do I think that this is going to be the most competitive roster in like the Pacific region? Absolutely not. There's no chance. Is it going to be super entertaining and be like a viewership engine for the region? Yeah, absolutely. Like, I think that that's probably the most underappreciated part of it, is like, this is not going to be a bad roster. Let me set that. It's not going to be the best roster. It's definitely not going to be the worst. But what it is going to do is bring a true like multicultural fan base to the Pacific region. Like, you're going to have NA fans who still want to go watch Aaron. You're going to have Korean fans who want to watch Bazi and Texture. You're going to, like, everyone's going to sort of collapse and concentrate around this one team. And it's just going to be great. Like, it's going to boost viewership for the region, and that's what I care about.
Those are my two question marks, though, because even people in the chat are saying, okay, we're looking at this roster. There's a lot of fucking duelists in this roster. But it's also the trend of what Korea's been doing, right? Taking a shit ton of jets and then just making them play in different roles. That said...
do we remember what New Turn was as a team?
Exactly. But then also, that said, the coaches that they're bringing in here into the team, they're bringing in a Korean coach, they're bringing in an Indian coach. But this international roster is truly international, where English may not be the primary language for this team. So as much as Anderzz is saying this could be a great team, I feel that this might be an issue in terms of team synergy, Tanner.
100%. Anderzz had a stat about it, not necessarily kind of set in stone stat, but basically saying that international rosters don't win grand finals is ultimately what it got at. I don't think there's ever been one. And kind of looking at this, I don't know Aaron's background. I thought maybe kind of making it work, Bazi and Texture.
He's Asian.
And then I see, yeah, but it's like, I don't know if he speaks Korean.
Like, what's the common tongue of this team?
Exactly. So even if there was, and like English is like relatively common, but a lot of Korean players don't actually speak English. I think we kind of see that in the League of Legends scene. And then I see just Ronsky slapped right there in the middle. And I'm like, okay, hold on. I don't know if this guy
English isn't even a common tongue for this team.
I don't know what's going on.
But from what I hear also, this 10-player roster, the original other Indian players should be staying in this roster so they could have a full Indian squad. And that could be a great practice partner for this team, too, to actually build that synergy that we're talking about. So let's see what happens with that. I mean, I'm truly excited about global esports. When we come back, though, we're going to have Mike's HD and also James RL to come on and talk about a recent matchup during the LCQ and dig into their thoughts and their thought process around this matchup between Cloud9 and 100 Thieves during LCQ after the break.